I'm Sarah.
And hi, I'm a big girl.
I'm the creator behind Root and Well. Today, we're going to show you Boston fern propagation.
Boston fern propagation, that's not what I know.
That's what I know. I'm going to teach you.
And I like plants, big plants. And if they die, I don't like plants. If they wake up, I love plants.
Ferns are one of the oldest groups of plants on Earth, with a fossil record dating back to over 393 million years ago, meaning that they survived 4 out of the 5 major extinctions. So they looked obviously very different than how we know them now. Most of those early ferns have gone extinct, and I recently learned about the evolution of ferns from a post written by a PhD candidate at the University of Florida, Gerald Pinson. He says that the ferns we see today evolved relatively recently in geological time, many of them in only the last 70 million years. So if you want to learn more about the evolution of ferns, I'll leave a link to that fascinating information below. So let's talk about modern ferns, like the Boston ferns that we have here. As a houseplant, Boston ferns were popularized during the Victorian era. That's like 1837 to 1901. I mean, they're like the OG houseplants. So Victorian. But with the advent of indoor climate control, ferns just couldn't hack it anymore. People were cranking up the heat in the winter, and ferns didn't love it, and so they died. So at the end of the fall last year, I got 3 Boston ferns because I wanted to hang them outside on my porch. And then winter came, and it was too cold for them outside, so I had to bring them in. I put one in my shower where it was very humid, but I couldn't fit all of them. I put one in our daughter's room, and that one did fine. And then I kept one in the living room, in the foyer area, and it was too dry for it there, and it didn't do so well. No, I would soak it, once a week and try and water it whenever I remembered, but it just didn't love the heat of the winter from our indoor HVAC system. So what I want to do is repot it and see if I can salvage any of the fern that did survive, and I'm going to show you how to break them apart and propagate them into, hopefully, multiple pots to grow more ferns. I wanted to give you a close-up look of how badly I've damaged this fern. There's a lot of dead material in here, but there are a few. Here's a brand new frond, and I think we can save some of this. Maybe you can't see that. There's a brand new frond, for example, and some of it's coming back. So I think we can save it. We're gonna try and take it apart and see what we get. So let me just explain how we're going to take this guy apart. It's in a hanging basket, and it's in there pretty deep. So I'm going to have to roll it on its side and see if I can edge it out. I might have to try and disconnect the hanging basket, whatever these are called, these little plastic sticks, to try and encourage it to come out. We'll see. I'll probably have to unlock these little plastic sticks and then roll it on its side and see if I can't get it out. Try and do that. So after I unhooked the hanging basket sides, I rolled it on its side, put some pressure, and then turned it over and came out. I did it. So once I squeezed on the sides and helped sort of loosen this part, it basically just dropped right out on its head, and I'm hoping I didn't break too many of them. I wanted to give you a close-up of the baby ferns that were growing in the side of the pot. So this fern is very much salvageable. It's really trying hard. I think if we just loosen up some of the roots, it'll do well. So you want to take a sharp, sterile knife and cut it in half, and then quarters, and then in eighths, and loosen the roots gently. A little bit of water might help with this. And then you take some sharp shears and get rid of the dead roots, the dead fronds, and sort of just free it up a little bit so it knows that it has room to grow, and then set them to the side. I'm moving the baby ferns into recycled yogurt containers that I've turned into temporary planters for this purpose. I just drilled several holes in the bottom of it and have added gravel, horticultural charcoal, all to improve the drainage. You never want your fern to be sitting in water or else the roots will rot. And you'll know the roots are rotting even though you can't see it if your plant's losing leaves or appears waterlogged. And then I've chosen a soil that's got plenty of organic material in it. I didn't add any fertilizer in this time, but it's not a bad idea in the spring when you're repotting your Boston fern just to add a liquid or a slow release fertilizer to help it grow. Now that we're done repotting them, you can place them in bright indirect light. Some ferns can handle full sun, but it's better to keep them in indirect light. They'll be happier. Water as you normally would. Keep the root ball moist at all times. And that's it.
That bee's gonna bite me. Say, shoot, go away from Kaya. Okay, Mama?
Okay.
I can do this by myself.
Okay.
Hi.
Test, 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 test.
Hello. Hi. I like plants. Big plants all around, and I like those big plants, like that, like those big plants. But I like all of them, all different kind of plants.
Test. Hope it's worked. Hope it works this time.